The EOS, a deep space exploration vessel from Earth, drifted silently through the void of uncharted space. Its mission was simple: map new star systems and search for signs of life beyond humanity's reach. But as Captain Alina Voss stared at the glowing holographic display in her command center, she felt an unusual pull toward an anomaly blinking faintly on the screen, a derelict structure orbiting a dying red dwarf star. "It shouldn't even be here," muttered Lieutenant Chen, the ship's navigator. His voice carried both awe and unease. "This sector is supposed to be uninhabitable." Elena nodded, her sharp eyes narrowing. Galactic records had labeled this region as barren, useless, and ignored by every advanced species. Yet there it was, a massive crumbling outpost floating like a ghost in the endless darkness. It looked ancient, its metallic surface scarred with craters and streaked with rust-colored dust. Whatever it was, it hadn't been touched in millennia. "Prepare an away team," Elena ordered firmly. "We're going inside." Hours later, 6 crew members stepped onto the outpost's surface. Their boots clanged against the cold metal floor as they entered through a jagged opening where a door might have once stood. Inside, the air was stale but breathable, hinting that some form of atmosphere still lingered within the station. Faint lights flickered sporadically along the walls, powered by energy sources long past their prime. "This place gives me the creeps," whispered Ensign Riley, clutching her scanner tightly. Her device emitted soft chirps as it scanned for life signs, but so far, nothing moved except the shadows cast by their helmet lamps. Dr. Arjun Patel, the ship's xenobiologist, walked ahead, his gaze fixed on the strange murals covering the walls. They depicted towering figures with elongated limbs and shimmering bodies, standing amidst lush landscapes filled with alien flora. In one mural, these beings appeared to be building great cities. In another, they seemed to kneel before a radiant orb suspended in the sky. "They were builders," Arjun said softly, running his gloved hand over the faded carvings. "Advanced, maybe even more than us at their peak." But something about the images disturbed him. Toward the end of the sequence, the vibrant colors turned dark, and the scenes grew chaotic. Flames consumed the cities. The radiant orb fractured into shards. And finally, the towering figures collapsed, reduced to small, faint shapes fading into emptiness. "What happened to them?" Riley asked, her voice trembling slightly. Before anyone could answer, the ground beneath them vibrated faintly. A low hum echoed through the corridors, growing louder with each passing second. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from deeper within the station, forcing the team to shield their eyes. When the light dimmed, they saw movement, shapes shifting in the distance. "Did you see that?" Chen whispered, gripping his rifle instinctively. Elena raised a hand, signaling caution. "Stay calm. Let's investigate." As they moved cautiously forward, the shapes became clearer. They weren't machines or debris. They were alive. Translucent, liquid-like forms hovered just out of reach, pulsating with soft, rhythmic glows. The creatures didn't attack or flee. Instead, they seemed to watch the humans with curiosity, their movements slow and deliberate. "They're beautiful," Arjun murmured, lowering his scanner. For a moment, he forgot his fear, captivated by the ethereal beings. But Elena remained vigilant. Something about this discovery felt too significant to ignore, and too dangerous to trust blindly. Who were these creatures? What had destroyed their civilization? And why had the rest of the galaxy abandoned them? For now, answers eluded her, but one thing was certain. The EOS had stumbled upon something extraordinary. Whether it would bring salvation or destruction remained to be seen. The translucent beings hovered silently in the dimly lit corridor, their glowing forms casting eerie shadows on the cracked walls of the derelict station. The away team from the EOS stood frozen, unsure whether to advance or retreat. Captain Alina Voss clenched her fists, her mind racing. These creatures were unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Living light trapped in fluid shapes, pulsating with colors that shifted like waves under a sunset. "They're not attacking," Lieutenant Chen whispered, lowering his weapon slightly but keeping it ready. "Do you think they're friendly?" "No idea," Elena replied sharply. "But we're not taking chances." Dr. Arjun Patel stepped forward cautiously, ignoring Elena's warning glance. He extended a hand toward one of the beings, his face alight with wonder. To everyone's surprise, the creature mirrored his movement, stretching part of its shimmering form toward him. When their fingertips, his solid and human, its liquid and radiant, almost touched, a sudden burst of warmth filled the air. It wasn't physical heat. It felt more like emotion, a sense of curiosity, mixed with something deeper, perhaps sadness. "They're trying to communicate," Arjun said breathlessly, turning back to the group. "Not through words, but through feelings." Ensign Riley frowned, clutching her scanner as if it could somehow decode what was happening. "How is that even possible? Are they telepathic?" "I don't know," Arjun admitted, still staring at the beings. "But this isn't random. They're intelligent, maybe even more than us." The creatures began moving again, gliding down the corridor without any clear direction. One of them paused near a mural depicting a radiant orb, the same symbol Arjun had noticed earlier, and emitted a soft pulse of blue light. Then another joined it, followed by a third. Slowly, they arranged themselves into a loose circle around the image, their lights flickering in unison. "What are they doing?" Riley asked nervously, stepping closer despite herself. "It's like they're showing us something," Elena murmured, watching intently. She signaled for the team to stay alert but not interfere. Whatever ritual or message these beings were performing, it seemed important. As the pulses grew brighter, an unexpected wave of sensations washed over the humans. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming. Memories, not their own, flashed before their eyes. Vast cities glittered under twin suns. Beings similar to the ones before them worked together, building intricate structures and machines. But then came destruction. Fire raining from the skies, buildings crumbling, screams echoing in silence. Finally, there was emptiness, a void where once there had been life. Arjun staggered backward, clutching his head. They're sharing their past, their history, this civilization. They were wiped out. The realization hit the team like a punch to the gut. These fragile, otherworldly creatures weren't just survivors. They were remnants of greatness brought low by catastrophe. And yet, even now, they'd radiated resilience, clinging to existence despite everything. "We need to help them," Arjun said firmly, his voice trembling with conviction. "Whatever destroyed their people, it's still out there. We can't leave them alone." Elena hesitated, torn between duty and caution. Galactic law dictated non-interference in alien affairs unless explicitly sanctioned. But how could she walk away after witnessing such raw vulnerability? These beings had reached out, not with hostility, but with trust. Turning her back would mean betraying that trust. Before she could decide, a loud clang echoed through the corridor. Startled, the team spun around to see one of the station's walls shudder violently. Dust rained down from above, and a jagged crack spread across the ceiling. "What was that?" Chen demanded, raising his rifle again. Elena's instincts kicked in. Back to the ship. Now. The translucent beings scattered, retreating deeper into the station as the structure groaned ominously. As the team sprinted toward the exit, Arjun glanced back one last time. The creatures were watching them go, their lights dimming until they almost disappeared. For now, the first contact had ended, but Elena knew this was only the beginning. Back aboard the EOS, Captain Elena Voss paced the bridge, her mind racing with questions. The translucent aliens, fragile yet profoundly intelligent, had left an indelible mark on her crew. But what could humanity do for them? And more importantly, would anyone else care? The ship's communication officer, Lieutenant Harper, broke the tense silence. "Captain, we've sent our initial report to Earth Command and flagged it as urgent. They're forwarding it to the United Galactic Council. Elena nodded but didn't look hopeful. The Council was notorious for its bureaucracy and favoritism toward powerful species. Humanity, still considered a minor player in galactic politics, rarely got attention unless it served someone else's agenda. Hours later, the response came, not from Earth Command, but directly from the Council itself. On the main view screen, a stern-looking alien ambassador appeared, his scaled face unreadable. His voice carried a tone of detached authority. "Your discovery is noted, Captain Voss," he said without preamble. "However, this sector has been classified as uninhabitable and irrelevant for millennia. These entities you describe are likely evolutionary remnants, incapable of meaningful interaction or contribution to interstellar society. We advise you to focus your resources elsewhere." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Riley clenched her fists, her frustration bubbling over. "That's it. They're just going to ignore them." "They don't care," Elena muttered bitterly. "To them, these beings are relics of the past, not worth their time or effort." But the indifference didn't stop there. Within hours, news of the discovery spread across human colonies and corporate networks. Scavenger ships, often hired by megacorporations eager to exploit unclaimed territories, began appearing on long-range scanners near the alien outpost. Their intentions were clear: strip the area of resources and leave nothing behind. Dr. Arjun Patel slammed his fist on the conference table during an emergency meeting. "We can't let them destroy that place. Those creatures, those people, are alive. They deserve protection." "I agree," Elena said firmly, though her expression remained grim. "But standing up to scavengers means risking conflict, and if word gets out that we're interfering, the Council might retaliate against us too." The weight of their situation settled heavily on the crew. Humanity wasn't ready for a fight. Not against scavengers, not against the Council. Yet abandoning the aliens felt unthinkable after witnessing their silent plea for survival. "What about public opinion?" Chen suggested hesitantly. "If we broadcast what we've seen, their history, their plight, maybe people will rally behind us." It was a risky idea. Going public meant bypassing official channels and appealing directly to ordinary citizens across human space. It also meant exposing themselves to criticism and potential backlash from those who believe humanity shouldn't meddle in alien affairs. But Elena saw no other choice. "We'll release everything," she decided finally. "Footage, scans, recordings, everything. Let the galaxy see what we found. If the Council won't act, then it's up to us." Over the next few days, the crew worked tirelessly to compile evidence. They edited videos of the glowing aliens, included data from their scanners, and added commentary explaining the significance of the discovery. When the message went live, it spread like wildfire through human colonies, sparking debates in homes, workplaces, and online forums. At first, reactions were mixed. Some dismissed the aliens as irrelevant, echoing the Council's stance. Others accused the crew of wasting resources on sentimental nonsense. But slowly, something remarkable happened. Ordinary citizens started organizing rallies, demanding action. Volunteers signed up to join the cause, offering ships, supplies, and manpower. Even independent fleets, small groups of traders and explorers tired of corporate greed, pledged support. For the first time, humanity stood united not because of orders from above, but because of compassion from below. As messages of solidarity poured in, Elena felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they couldn't take on the entire galaxy alone, but together, they might stand a chance. Still, one question lingered in her mind. How far would they have to go to protect the forgotten aliens? And at what cost? The response to humanity's plea was overwhelming. But so was the danger lurking in the shadows. As support poured in from across human colonies, scavenger ships grew bolder, encroaching closer to the alien outpost. Their motives were clear: strip the sector of its resources and eliminate anything, or anyone, that stood in their way. Captain Alina Voss stared at the tactical display on the Eos's bridge, her jaw tightening. Dozens of scavenger vessels now orbited the dying star, their movements erratic but purposeful. Some tugged massive chunks of asteroids toward processing rigs, while others conducted unauthorized scans of the alien habitat. Among them, a larger ship caught her attention, a heavily armed freighter marked with the insignia of Syraxis Corp, one of the most ruthless megacorporations in the galaxy. They're not just mining. Lieutenant Chen muttered grimly, analyzing the data. Look at this. It's a containment signal. They've captured something. Alina's heart sank. One of the aliens. Dr. Arjun Patel leaned over the console, his face pale. If they've taken one of them, we need to act fast. Those creatures are fragile. They won't survive captivity for long. Without hesitation, Alina ordered the EOs to intercept the freighter. The crew prepared for what could become their first real confrontation since discovering the aliens. Tension crackled through the ship as weapons systems came online and shields powered up. When they reached the freighter, it loomed like a predator in the void, its hull scarred from years of illegal operations. Docked beside it was a smaller transport shuttle, its cargo bay doors wide open. Inside, suspended in a glowing energy field, floated one of the translucent aliens. Its light flickered weakly, dimmer than ever before, as if struggling to stay alive. "This is wrong," Riley whispered, her voice trembling with anger. "We can't let them do this." "Agreed," Alina said sharply. "Chen, disable their engines. Harper, broadcast a warning. Release the alien or face consequences." The scavengers didn't comply. Instead, they fired warning shots, forcing the EOs to dodge plasma bolts. Alina clenched her fists around the command railing. "They're testing us. Fine. Let's show them we mean business." Under Chen's expert piloting, the EOs executed a daring maneuver, slipping behind the freighter and targeting its engine array. A precise blast disabled the ship's propulsion system, leaving it dead in space. Meanwhile, Alina led an away team aboard the transport shuttle via a risky boarding operation. Armed with stun rifles and determination, they stormed the vessel. Inside, the scene was horrifying. Scavengers in crude hazmat suits surrounded the captive alien, prodding it with tools that sparked with electricity. Equipment lined the walls, devices designed for dissection and experimentation. It was clear these mercenaries weren't merely harvesting resources. They sought to exploit the alien's unique biology for profit. "Step away from it," Alina barked, her rifle aimed squarely at the nearest scavenger. The mercenaries hesitated, then raised their hands reluctantly. One of them sneered. "You don't know what you're messing with, Captain. This thing's worth more than your whole damn colony." Ignoring him, Arjun rushed to the alien side. With careful precision, he deactivated the energy field holding it captive. The creature drifted free, its glow brightening slightly as if sensing rescue. Gently, Arjun coaxed it into a portable containment unit rigged to mimic its natural environment. As the away team retreated to the EOs, the scavengers shouted threats, vowing revenge. But Alina felt no fear, only resolve. Saving the alien had been the right choice, even if it painted a target on humanity's back. Back aboard the ship, the rescued alien pulsed softly, projecting fragmented images into Arjun's mind. He saw flashes of cages, needles, and pain, the horrors inflicted upon its kind. His fists clenched in fury. "They'd done this before," he told Alina quietly. "These monsters have been hunting them for who knows how long." Alina nodded grimly. "Then we'll stop them, no matter what it takes." But deep down, she knew the battle had only just begun. The rescued alien rested in a specially designed containment chamber aboard the EOs, its faint glow pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. Dr. Arjun Patel spent every waking moment by its side, studying its behavior and attempting to decipher the fragmented images it projected into his mind. The process was exhausting. Each vision left him drained, as though the creature's emotions bowled into his own. But he pressed on, driven by the need to understand. One night, as the ship drifted silently through the void, Arjun experienced something extraordinary. The alien's light flared brightly, enveloping him in warmth. Suddenly, he wasn't standing in the lab anymore. He found himself transported to another time, another place, a world filled with towering crystalline structures that shimmered under twin suns. Around him, translucent beings moved gracefully, their forms radiating brilliance. They worked together seamlessly, constructing intricate machines and cultivating lush fields of bioluminescent plants. But then the scene shifted. Dark ships descended from the sky, unleashing devastating weapons. The peaceful civilization crumbled under relentless attacks, its people scattering in terror. Arjun gasped as new images flooded his mind, images of betrayal. The attackers weren't random invaders. They were members of an ancient coalition, the same group that now formed the core of the United Galactic Council. These powerful species had feared the aliens' influence, seeing their message of unity and peace as a threat to their dominance. In response, they waged war, eradicating the once thriving civilization until only fragments remained. When the vision faded, Arjun stumbled back, clutching the edge of the containment chamber for support. His heart pounded as he processed what he'd seen. The aliens weren't just victims of some natural disaster. They were survivors of genocide, deliberately targeted and erased from history. Captain Alina Voss entered the lab moments later, drawn by the commotion. "Arjun, are you all right?" He looked up at her, his face pale but resolute. "I know why the Council ignored them," he said hoarsely. "They didn't just abandon this sector, they destroyed it. The aliens' ancestors were pioneers of peace, trying to unite warring factions across the galaxy. When the Coalition saw how much sway they held, they wiped them out." Alina's expression hardened. "That explains why the Council dismissed us so quickly. They're covering their tracks. But it also means we're not dealing with scavengers alone," Arjun continued. "Syrax's court isn't acting independently. They're pawns. Someone higher up wants these creatures gone for good." As the weight of the revelation settled over them, Riley rushed into the room, her face flushed with urgency. "Captain, you need to see this. Scavenger activity has spiked near the outpost. They're mobilizing, like they're preparing for something big." Alina nodded grimly. "We can't wait any longer. If the Council orchestrated this massacre centuries ago, they won't hesitate to finish the job now. We have to protect those aliens, at all costs." Later that evening, the crew gathered in the briefing room. Alina stood at the head of the table, her voice steady but laced with determination. "We've uncovered the truth, and it's ugly. These beings deserve justice, not extermination. From this point forward, we fight not just for survival, but for redemption. Humanity will stand against anyone who tries to harm them." Her words ignited a fire within the team. For too long, humanity had been treated as insignificant by the galactic elite. Now, they had a chance to prove their worth, not through power or conquest, but through compassion and courage. But as the meeting ended, Arjun couldn't shake the feeling that their greatest challenges still lay ahead. The visions had shown him one final image before fading, a shadowy figure watching from the darkness, its presence cold and menacing. Whoever, or whatever, it was, it knew they were coming. And it was waiting. The EOs raced through the void, its engines roaring as Captain Alina Voss prepared to make a stand. The truth about the aliens' past weighed heavily on her shoulders, but she knew humanity couldn't face this battle alone. They needed allies, ordinary people willing to defy the galactic elite and fight for what was right. Alina turned to Lieutenant Harper, who manned the communications console. "Broadcast our message again. This time, let's show them everything. The visions, the experiments, the Council's betrayal. Make sure every human colony hears it." Harper nodded, his fingers flying over the controls. Within hours, the transmission spread across space like wildfire. Footage of the translucent aliens flickered on screens in bustling spaceports, quiet homesteads, and crowded marketplaces. Viewers saw their luminous forms, heard Dr. Arjun Patel describe their history, and watched the horrifying evidence of scavenger experiments. Most shocking of all was the revelation that the United Galactic Council had orchestrated their ancestors' destruction. At first, reactions were mixed. Some dismissed the story as exaggerated or irrelevant. Others accused the crew of endangering humanity by challenging powerful forces. But slowly, outrage began to build. Protests erupted outside corporate offices and council embassies. Independent traders shut down trade routes controlled by Syraxis Corp, demanding justice for the forgotten aliens. Volunteers poured into makeshift fleets, pledging ships, supplies, and lives to the cause. Among the supporters was Captain Leela Moreau, leader of the Free Skies Coalition, a group of rogue pilots known for flouting interstellar laws. She contacted the EOs, her voice crackling with determination over the comms. "You've got guts standing up to the Council, Captain Voss. Count us in." As reinforcements gathered near the alien outpost, Alina addressed the growing fleet via holographic broadcast. Her image appeared on dozens of bridges, her tone unwavering. "We're not just fighting for these creatures, we're fighting for humanity's soul. If we turn away now, we become no better than those who destroy them. Together, we can protect the innocent and prove that compassion still has a place in this galaxy." But not everyone shared her conviction. On board one of the volunteer ships, tensions boiled over during a heated debate. A grizzled engineer named Corin slammed his fist on a table, glaring at his captain. "This isn't our war. Why risk everything for some glowing squids?" His words sparked murmurs of dissent among the crew. Many feared retaliation from the Council or scavengers. Others worried humanity would lose access to vital resources if they crossed megacorporations. Even within the ranks of the EOs, doubts lingered. Lieutenant Chen voiced his concerns privately to Alina. "What if we're biting off more than we can chew? What happens when the Council sends warships instead of diplomats?" Alina met his gaze, her resolve unshaken. "Then we'll deal with it. We didn't come this far to back down now." Meanwhile, scavenger activity intensified around the outpost. Dozens of ships formed blockades, cutting off supply lines and probing defenses. It was clear they intended to crush the rebellion before it gained momentum. When a scavenger vessel fired on an unarmed transport carrying medical supplies, the fragile coalition nearly fractured under the strain. Dr. Patel intervened, addressing the fleet with quiet urgency. "These aliens are alive because of us. If we abandon them now, we betray everything we claim to stand for. Yes, there will be risks, but look at what they've endured. Can we do any less?" His words struck a chord. Slowly, the dissent faded, replaced by renewed determination. Ships tightened their formations, preparing for the inevitable clash. As the scavengers launched their first wave of attacks, the Ragdag Alliance stood ready, not just as fighters, but as guardians of hope. Alina gripped the railing of the bridge, watching the enemy approach. "For the forgotten," she whispered. Then louder, to her crew, "Lock weapons and prepare to defend them. No matter what comes next, we hold the line." And so, the battle began. The void erupted into chaos as the scavenger fleet surged forward, their ships spewing plasma bolts and energy beams. The Ragdag alliance of human vessels scattered across the battlefield, outnumbered and outgunned, but determined to hold their ground. Captain Alina Voss gripped the command railing aboard the EOs, her eyes locked on the tactical display. Every ship in their coalition was a patchwork of old freighters, repurposed mining rigs, and battered fighters, nothing compared to the sleek, heavily armed scavenger vessels. "Shields at 75%, Lieutenant Chen called out, his voice tight with tension. "They're targeting us first. Divert power to the front deflectors," Alina ordered sharply. "Harper, keep communications open with the fleet. We can't afford to lose coordination now." The EOs rocked violently as another volley struck its hull, sending sparks flying across the bridge. Riley clung to her console, frantically adjusting shield frequencies to counteract the enemy's weapons. "Their fire is concentrated on our engines," she shouted. "If they disable us, we're done." "We're not going down that easy," Alina snapped. "Chen, maneuver us behind the asteroid field. Use it as cover while we regroup." With expert piloting, Chen guided the EOs into the jagged maze of floating rocks just as another barrage of shots zipped past their port side. The scavengers followed, splitting their forces to flank the smaller ships hiding among the debris. Explosions lit up the darkness as several volunteer vessels were hit, their wreckage drifting lifelessly into the void. But humanity's makeshift fleet wasn't without tricks of its own. Captain Leela Moreau's Free Skies Coalition executed a daring ambush, launching swarms of automated drones from hidden positions within the asteroid field. The tiny machines latched onto scavenger ships, disabling weapon systems and creating openings for counterattacks. Cheers erupted over the comms as two enemy vessels spiraled out of control, crashing into each other in a fiery collision. "They're breaking formation," Harper announced, relief evident in her voice. "Our flank is holding." For a moment, hope flickered among the crew of the EOs. But then, something unexpected happened. The translucent aliens intervened. From deep within the outpost, dozens of glowing forms emerged, floating gracefully toward the battlefield. Their lights pulsed in unison, emitting waves of radiant energy that disrupted scavenger systems. Ships faltered mid-flight, their controls jammed by an unseen force. Weapons overheated and exploded, forcing many scavengers to retreat or abandon their vessels entirely. "What are they doing?" Arjun whispered, watching the scene unfold from the observation deck. His heart raced as he realized the aliens weren't merely defending themselves. They were fighting alongside humanity. "They're helping us," Alina said softly, awe creeping into her voice. Turning to her crew, she raised her voice. "This changes everything. Push forward. Press the advantage while we have it." Emboldened by the sudden turn of events, the human fleet launched a coordinated assault. Torpedoes streaked through space, striking disabled scavenger ships with pinpoint accuracy. Fighters darted between larger vessels, harrying the enemy with relentless precision. For the first time since the battle began, the tide shifted in their favor. Yet even as victory seemed within reach, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that this skirmish was only a prelude. The scavengers were pawns, driven by orders from someone far more dangerous. Whoever had orchestrated the genocide centuries ago wouldn't let humanity defy them so easily. As the last scavenger vessel limped away, damaged and defeated, the humans cheered. But their celebration was short-lived. On the tactical display, a new signal appeared. A massive warship emerging from hyperspace, its silhouette unmistakable. It bore the insignia of the United Galactic Council. "They sent enforcers," Chen muttered grimly, staring at the screen. Alina straightened, her resolve hardening once again. "Then we'll face them too. Prepare for round two." The aliens' glow dimmed slightly, as if sensing the looming threat. Humanity had stood by them when no one else would, but protecting them might mean confronting the entire galaxy, and Alina knew they were ready. The massive Council warship loomed in the distance, its sleek, angular design radiating authority. Weapons bristled along its hull, and its sheer size dwarfed every other vessel in the sector. On board the EOs, Captain Alina Voss clenched her fists as she stared at the tactical display. This wasn't just a show of force, it was a warning. "They're hailing us," Lieutenant Harper announced, his voice tense. "Audio only." "Put it through," Alina said, stepping closer to the comm panel. A cold, mechanical voice echoed across the bridge. "This is Admiral Kell of the United Galactic Council Enforcer Fleet. Cease all hostilities immediately and surrender your position. Your unauthorized interference in restricted space violates galactic law." Alina exchanged a glance with her crew before responding. "Admiral Kale, this isn't restricted space. It's home to sentient beings who deserve protection. We won't stand aside while scavengers destroy them." There was a pause, followed by a low chuckle. "Sentient. Those creatures are evolutionary failures, relics of a dead civilization. Humanity's actions here are reckless and irresponsible. Stand down now or face consequences. Alina's jaw tightened. She had expected threats, but hearing the council dismiss the aliens so callously reignited her anger. Before she could respond, Dr. Arjun Patel stepped forward. "Captain, let me talk to them." She hesitated, then nodded. "Harper, patch him through." Arjun took a deep breath, his voice steady despite the weight of what he was about to say. "Admiral Kale, you know the truth. You know these beings were once a thriving civilization, peaceful pioneers who sought unity among species, and you know why they were destroyed. If you attack us today, you'll be erasing the last remnants of their legacy. Is that truly what the Council stands for?" Silence stretched for several moments. Then Admiral Cale's voice returned, sharper this time. "You've been missiled, Doctor. The past is irrelevant. What matters is maintaining order in the galaxy. These entities have no place in our future." "They have a place in ours," Alina interjected firmly. "Humanity will protect them, even if it means standing against you." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Moments later, the Council warship began moving, its engines glowing brighter as it prepared to engage. Alina barked orders, rallying her crew. "Raise shields. Divert all available power to weapons and propulsion. Chen, keep us mobile. We can't let them pin us down." As the battle lines formed once more, something extraordinary happened. The translucent aliens, still hovering near the battlefield, emitted a blinding burst of light. Their glow intensified until it filled the void, creating an impenetrable barrier between the human fleet and the Council warship. Energy rippled outward, disrupting targeting systems and scrambling communications. "What's happening?" Riley exclaimed, shielding her eyes from the glare. "They're shielding us," Arjun whispered in awe. "They're using their own energy to protect us." The Council warship fired anyway, but its attacks dissipated harmlessly against the glowing barrier. Admiral Kell's voice crackled over the comms, tinged with frustration. "Cease this interference. Withdraw immediately." Alina seized the opportunity. "All ships, regroup behind the barrier. Focus fire on their weapon arrays. We need to disable them before they adapt." The human fleet surged forward, launching torpedoes and plasma bolts at the immobilized warship. Explosions rocked its surface, forcing it to retreat slightly. But even as the tide turned in their favor, Alina couldn't ignore the cost of the battle. Several volunteer ships had been lost, their crews sacrificed in the fight. The weight of leadership pressed heavily on her shoulders. When the Council warship finally disengaged, retreating into hyperspace, the humans exhaled a collective sigh of relief. Yet the victory felt hollow. They had survived, for now. But the Council wouldn't forget this defiance. Back aboard the outpost, the aliens' lights dimmed, their energy spent. As Arjun approached one of them, it projected a final vision into his mind. A starry sky dotted with countless civilizations, each connected by threads of light. It was a message of hope, and a reminder of the work left undone. "We're not done yet," Alina said quietly, gazing at the alien forms. "But we've proven we can stand up for what's right." Her words hung in the air as the survivors prepared for whatever came next. The aftermath of the battle left the human fleet battered but resolute. The Council warship's retreat had been a temporary victory, not an end to the conflict. Captain Alina Voss knew the Council wouldn't let humanity's defiance go unanswered. For now, they had time, a narrow window to prepare for what came next. But she also knew that brute force alone wouldn't win this fight. If humanity wanted to protect the aliens, they needed allies beyond their ragtag coalition. "We need to take this directly to the Council," Alina declared during an emergency meeting aboard the EOS. Her voice carried both determination and urgency. "If we expose their crimes on their own turf, maybe we can rally enough support to force them to back down." Lieutenant Chen frowned. "You mean march into the Council chambers and accuse them of genocide?" They'll tear us apart before we even get through the door. They might try, Elena admitted. But we have proof, the visions, the experiments, everything. And we're not going alone. We'll bring representatives from every colony, every independent fleet, anyone willing to stand with us. Humanity isn't just one ship anymore. It's a movement. Dr. Arjun Patel nodded slowly. It's risky, but it could work. If we present our case clearly and show the galaxy what these creatures truly are, they might listen. With the plan set, the crew worked tirelessly to gather evidence. Riley sifted through recordings of the aliens' projections, isolating key moments that showcased their intelligence and peaceful nature. Harper reached out to sympathetic factions across human space, rallying delegates to join their cause. Meanwhile, repair crews patched up damaged ships as best they could, knowing they'd need every advantage when facing the Council. Days later, the EOS and its allied fleet arrived at the heart of galactic civilization, the sprawling metropolis world where the United Galactic Council held court. Towering spires of glass and steel pierced the clouds, housing embassies, corporate headquarters, and diplomatic chambers. As the humans disembarked, they were met with icy stares from council envoys and curious glances from other species who had heard whispers of their rebellion. Inside the Grand Council chamber, Elena stood before rows of seated ambassadors, her posture unwavering despite the weight of their judgmental gazes. At her side stood Arjun, clutching a data pad filled with irrefutable evidence. Behind them, a diverse group of human supporters, farmers, engineers, pilots, and scholars, formed a united front. Admiral Kale presided over the assembly, his expression unreadable. Captain Voss. He began coldly. You've disrupted interstellar peace and endangered countless lives. What justification do you offer for your actions? Elena stepped forward, her voice ringing out clearly. We acted to protect innocent beings from exploitation and extinction. These aliens are not relics. They are survivors of a massacre orchestrated by members of this very council centuries ago. Their ancestors preached unity and peace, yet you saw them as a threat and destroyed them. Now you seek to finish the job. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as Elena played recordings of the aliens' glowing forms, their harmonious movements, and the haunting images of their lost civilization. When the footage ended, silence fell over the room. Then, unexpectedly, a small delegation of lesser-known species rose from their seats. One ambassador, representing a nomadic aquatic race, spoke up. The humans are right. The Council has ignored suffering for too long. It is time someone held you accountable. Other voices joined in, some hesitant, others bold, all echoing the call for justice. The tide began to shift, forcing even powerful council members to exchange uneasy glances. Admiral Kale slammed his gavel, trying to regain control. This session is adjourned, but the damage was done. Humanity had struck a nerve and sparked hope among those tired of oppression. As Elena and her team exited the chamber, they knew the fight wasn't over. Yet for the first time, they weren't alone. The diplomatic standoff left the galaxy in turmoil. The Council, caught between its own secrets and mounting public pressure, issued a reluctant decree. The aliens' territory would be designated a protected zone, off-limits to scavengers and corporate exploitation. It was a hollow victory, crafted more to save face than out of genuine concern. Yet for Captain Elena Voss and her crew, it was enough. For now. Back aboard the EOS, the team gathered on the observation deck, watching as the translucent aliens drifted gracefully around the derelict outpost. Their lights pulsed softly, brighter than they had been since the humans first encountered them. Dr. Arjun Patel smiled faintly, sensing their gratitude without words. They know what we've done for them, he said quietly. Even if the Council doesn't care, they do. Elena nodded, leaning against the railing. Her mind replayed the events that had led them here, the battles fought, the sacrifices made, and the lives lost. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing against overwhelming odds, not for conquest or profit, but for compassion. "We didn't just protect them," she murmured. "We reminded ourselves who we want to be." As the days passed, the human fleet began dispersing. Some ships returned to their colonies, carrying stories of courage and unity. Others remained near the alien habitat, forming a rotating guard to ensure no scavenger dared encroach again. Among them was Captain Lila Moreau's Free Skies Coalition, whose rogue pilots embraced their new role as guardians of the forgotten. One evening, as the EOs prepared to depart, the aliens approached the ship en masse. Their glowing forms surrounded it, creating an ethereal halo in the void. Through the viewport, the crew watched in awe as one of the creatures extended a tendril of light toward the hull. Moments later, a wave of emotion washed over everyone aboard. Peace, trust, and something deeper, a memory. Arjun closed his eyes, letting the vision unfold in his mind. He saw a future where humanity stood alongside countless civilizations, united not by fear or greed, but by shared purpose. At the center of this vision were the translucent beings, their light guiding others toward harmony. When the vision faded, tears streamed down his face. "They're thanking us," he whispered, "not just for saving them, but for believing in them." Elena placed a hand on his shoulder, her expression softening. "And maybe they're reminding us to believe in ourselves too." With heavy hearts but renewed resolve, the EOs set course for Earth. News of their actions spread across the galaxy, sparking debates about morality, responsibility, and the role of smaller species in shaping interstellar politics. Humanity's defiance had planted seeds of change, challenging centuries-old hierarchies and inspiring others to question authority. On the bridge, Elena gazed at the stars streaking past the viewport. She thought of the aliens, fragile yet resilient, and wondered how many other forgotten peoples existed in the vastness of space. For every civilization destroyed or ignored, there was potential for redemption, and humanity had taken its first step toward becoming a force for good. As the ship entered hyperspace, a final message echoed in Arjun's mind, sent by the aliens before they disappeared into the depths of their outpost. It wasn't spoken in words but felt like a promise. "You are not alone." For the first time in history, humanity truly understood what that meant. They weren't explorers anymore, they were protectors. And though the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, they faced it knowing they had already changed the galaxy forever. Far away, amidst the ruins of their ancient world, the translucent beings glowed brighter than ever before, a beacon of hope in the endless night.